Hello again, you beautiful people. It is great to bring you another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast. Our guest today, he is from New York. He is an insurance broker, and some say when he dies, you'll have to bury him 12 feet under, because deep down in there, there's a great guy somewhere. None other than the Christoph D'Amato. Or is it Christopher?
Either
Christian?
Chris.
Chrysanthemum. It's probably chrysanthemum, right?
No, it's actually Christopher.
Just Chris.
Named after the saint of travel.
Oh, okay. Well,
So.
probably not chrysanthemum.
I still get lost.
I'll just call you that when the cameras aren't rolling then.
Perfect.
He's like, please don't. Chris and I have known each other for over 2 years now, I think.
Yeah, it's been
right?
a few years.
Yeah, it's been a few years. We met networking again. I mean, that's how I meet all the amazing, great people. Most, I would say. Chris is a bit down on that list, but I mean, I wanted to do him a favor today and have him on the podcast, you know. And
I just hope I can bring it up a few levels after today.
He is an
See what
Office
we can do.
fan, so, you know, we bonded over that a little bit, so that's pretty good. You know, sometimes I wonder if, like, when I think I'm funny, if I'm funny like Michael Scott, where everybody's like, will you please just shut up?
You have a
You
little
know,
Michael
do I
Scott
have a
in
little
you.
Mi-
Yeah, a little bit. A
Dang
little bit.
it.
Yep.
As long as it's the endearing parts, you know, like every once in a while when you watch it, it's like, oh, Michael, you're so funny. But probably not. Anyways, without further ado, Chris, it's good to have you, man.
Thank you for having me.
It really is. No, all jokes aside, getting real for just a minute. Man, we're going there quick. But when I first started networking, deer in the headlights, right? Because it's a whole different world. Like when you're kind of coming from my point, which I'm sure a lot of you have kind of either are there or have been there, where it's like, I don't know, you're wondering what to do kind of next. You might be in a dead-end job. You might, you know, just you're not happy with where you're at. And then, boom, networking, right? Like that's kind of what happened with me. My friend of mine told me I should join BNI, and I looked into it, and I joined. And it was this ridiculous, like, world that I had never seen before. And it was just, like, super overwhelming to be able, I mean, you got to meet with people, you got to go to lunch with people, and you got to, you know, really, like, build relationships. But when I joined BNI, you were one of the first people that I really felt kind of guided me through that, and super helpful, super friendly. And when I had questions of like, what's an LLC? How do I get an EIN? You know, all of those things that it's not your job,
Right.
to do that for people, but it was just like, hey, like I want to help you to succeed, and I just, you know, thank you for that, obviously, but.
Yeah.
So you have been on my mind to have you on the podcast, just because we have a lot of fun just screwing around and, you know, BSing. And
The BNI stuff was easy. I've been doing it since 2006. So.
have you been in BNI that long?
Yeah, there was a period of time where
Man.
I wasn't, because the chapter that I originally started with, it got small through like 09, 10, 11, right? The contractor's gone, the landscaper's gone, a lot of the trade stuff that in that economy went away. So we got to be a smaller chapter, like 12 or 14, and BNI was encouraging us to try and grow, and the group left BNI altogether.
Get out of town.
It did, yeah, and we still met for maybe a year or two, and I can't remember the exact timeline of it, but basically we still met, and then it went from like 15 to like 13, and then 10, and then 8, and then it kind of evolved into like a men's club where there was 4 of us that would meet for breakfast, and we would meet every week, and then this
club where you meet for brunch.
Yeah, it was great, and we would talk about a little bit about work, but then it was like family and the kids and all that stuff.
Catching up.
And there was literally 4 of us. We would meet at the Wildflower in Scottsdale for breakfast every Thursday, and it was great. And then it all came to an end. One day we were meeting, talking, and someone said, well, next week I've got vacation. And then the other guy said, well, I got this going on. And then next thing you know, like, we kind of like looked at each other. It was like a breakup where we were like, well, maybe we'll get together in a month from now. And then
It's not you, it's me.
yeah, and we all kind of laughed, and we went out to the parking lot. We shook hands, we bro hugged, and we all knew like we were breaking up. Like it was done. It was so funny.
You breaking up the boy band?
Yeah, if you could have seen it from the parking lot, I'm sure it would have been hysterical, right? Because like we were
trying not to hold
hold
back
it back to tears.
You know?
But it was great. So that was that was how that part of it ended. And then I got into this chapter a few years later. So
yeah, that's awesome. No, this chapter, I mean, it's funny because I joined, I mean, off of a recommendation of a friend, like I said, and the principle I thought was great because I was in solar sales at the time, which you may remember. But I was like, yeah, you know, I get a referral from, you know, this referral group is kind of what I saw it as, and I'm good.
Yep.
You know, and so I joined without even visiting, and then by the time I got there, I was like, oh man, this is it. You know, you're in a room full of people that want to see you succeed, which and then also people that are at, you know, they're further down the success road, if you will, than I was, way further down. You know, you got business. I mean, you said you've been doing this for 20 years, did you say?
So insurance, yeah, I've had really two careers. My first one when I worked with JP Morgan Chase for 10 years, and then this for 20 now. I started my first agency in 2004, May 1st.
I haven't even been working that long.
Right.
I think 20 years ago I was 13. You're old.
So I am. I'm not at that old. But I moved here in 04.
Not the pen's old.
Right.
Come on.
Well, I started I started with Chase at 18. So it was like my first.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah. It was
What
my
were you
first
doing?
real job.
What were you doing with Chase?
So I originally started out in customer service. That lasted like 6 months. I was horrible at it, and I
Was it the accent?
It was a little bit of that. I was 18.
Get off my phone.
Yeah, there was definitely some of that. Manager, because I didn't know they would listen in on your phone calls. So when you hit the mute button, the customer couldn't hear, but management could. So there was
just like swearing like a sailor. Oh, sorry, ma'am. I meant to say that behind your back. Forget to put them on mute.
I remember the first time I got in trouble, and the manager of our group was like 6'8". And he was this huge guy. And I put this lady on hold, and I have a few New York related choice things to say. And you just, you know, when you feel somebody on top of you, and I've got this lady on hold, and I kind of just look up, and I'm like, oh,
I'm screwed.
and he's like, yeah, let's talk. So he brought me in the office, and that was probably, I think, when I first realized, like, all right, this is not for me. I got to figure out something to do. Anyway, so I met some other people there that were also from New York. There was a lot of people that were there, and that kind of started my professional career that way, where then I transferred departments, and I worked for somebody who actually was from the same part of Long Island, New York, that I was from. Different, like our schools were rival high schools. He was older, but he kind of brought me in and mentored me, which is really one of the things. Like mentorship was really a big thing that catapulted me there, because when I left Chase, at that point I had 60 people working for me. I was, I was 27, 28. I was VP, and I had at one point I had people working for me in Texas and New York. So
get out of here.
When we would do career planning and goal setting and things like that, when I was working with my bosses, my goal was to be CEO. Like I thought I was going to be Jamie Dimon someday, like running that thing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the path that I was on. And then it just kind of came to, like, it got married, started having kids, and then realized, like, I just got burnt out. Yeah. But I had a lot of responsibility. I got involved in a lot of projects. I learned a lot of great things. There was a lot of training that I was able to take advantage of. I was talking to somebody this morning about Houston, a client, and I used to travel to Houston every quarter, and part of like a mentorship program that I used to do. Yeah. And so it was a lot of great training, a lot of things that helped me, I think, today more than I ever realized in the sales aspect of it. Yeah. But yeah, that was my first part of my career, and then in 04, moved here. My son Matthew was born on the 28th of April. I opened my agency April 1st, moved into a new house June 1st.
Dude, all those things.
Didn't know anything, didn't have any money. I was broke and borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And that's how I started my insurance career.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. And now you are the insurance guy. Clear Choice Insurance. That's your place. Now, and it's something interesting about your company that I didn't even know existed, which shows how much I'd actually been in the world and living under a rock. But like, you're not strictly like an insurance salesman.
Right.
Not going door to door. My dad hates insurance salesmen. He says I look a lot like a traveling insurance salesman. I don't know what that's about, but I don't know if that's, I don't know. You can tell me. But my mom would know, I think, is what he said. No, but like you're not selling policies per se. Your tagline is, we shop your insurance so you don't have to.
Right.
Right. Like someone says, I need insurance. You say, cool. Tell me if this is wrong. I'm going to go out and I'm going to look at all the insurance providers that I can, and then come back to you with the best policy for the best price, correct?
Correct. There's 3 ways
Am
you
I
can
missing?
buy.
Yeah.
So there's 3 ways you can buy insurance. You can buy direct, where you call an 800 number and you buy it over the phone or online. You can buy it from a captive agent. So you go down to, like when I was an Allstate agent, you go down to your Allstate guy and you buy, and that's all that they sell. Or you go through the independent channel, which is what we do.
Got it.
And companies like Nationwide and Travelers, and Progressive's a hybrid because they have agents like us, but then you can also buy direct. But a lot of those carriers, they don't employ or have their own team of agents that only sell their products. They use independents like us. So Travelers, Nationwide, Safeco, those are some of the ones that people would recognize. Then there's lots of companies that just don't spend $150 million on marketing with TV ads and print ads and stuff like that, Acuity, Selective. There's a whole bunch of them that are all A-rated, and they do a great job, but they use us to sell their policies, to know the details and how they work and things like that.
So it's interesting because, bridging divides, right? I mean, I have what's called the bridge strategy, the five building blocks of success that we talk about: blueprint and laying the first brick and the taking initiative, that kind of a thing. But one of those is the fourth one is complete their bridge. So like when you're looking to grow, be successful, whether it's personal, in a relationship, in a business, that building block is all about, instead of looking for someone to complete your bridge, give you what you want, look for someone where you can complete their bridge. Okay. And then it comes back to you, right? So when I find a company like yours or a profession or whatever that really you are focused on, well, what can I do for the person coming to me?
Yeah. Right.
They come to you, and you don't all of a sudden or automatically just be like, all right, here's the product I have. You go, what do you need?
Yeah.
It's a needs analysis, right? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of terms for it and everything, but that principle of giving people what they need first and then having it come back to you. I mean, I've seen that in my life. How have you seen that in the success that you've had with your company? 20 years is not nothing. I mean, we're talking, this is through 2008.
Yeah, I should be retired by now.
Through COVID. I mean,
most people do stuff for 20 years, they're getting ready to retire.
But like, how have you seen that principle of putting other people's needs first and coming to them, completing their bridge? How has that come back to you?
Well, I think some of the, similar to B&I, but where givers gain, right? Those principles that you have. But even, tying that, kind of what you said, even with when you managed people, and I think about my Chase days where you're always trying to put people like in the best possible situation to succeed, right? You're always, whatever they're good at, you make sure that they do those things.
Thank you. And how often does that not happen? And people, their job sucks.
Yes, and then it never really works. So
no, you don't get what you want. They hate it, so they're not doing what they want, and then everybody's screwed.
So Bill Parcells had a great line. He in one of his press conferences where he talked about if a guy's a wide receiver, you have him run out and catch passes. You don't have him block.
That's for baseball, right?
Football.
Oh, football's the one with the brown, the weird. Is that the football?
Yeah, you serious right now?
Sorry, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Okay, so I'm just
busting your chops.
You may not be. How do I know? We've never talked sports.
You do know me, so you're no.
He could really not know what I'm talking about right now.
He's that much of an idiot, so this might be real.
Let me think of a different analogy for you. How about that?
No. It's perfect.
So,
keep going.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're, you got one position, but you put him in another.
So I think early on, when I first started, it was a matter of trying to write new business, bring clients on, and the main focus was just getting them to say yes, right? And getting them to buy, because buy means that they become a client, then you make money, and then you can turn on the lights and pay the people and yourself and live, right? And that's the most important thing. But over time, the things that I think I do differently today is kind of what you're saying is you do try and help everybody you can. So if it's something with rates or coverages and things that you can do just by explaining to people and giving them options, right? Here's the way this stuff works. Here's the things you have to have or you don't have to have, and here's the reasons for having them or not having them, right? And you let people make decisions, and then maybe they're more in control. And those things, we get more referrals today than I've ever gotten from, and it's not just through BNI, but it's our existing client base.
Right.
I mean, we get 2 to 3 phone calls a day from people
That's fantastic.
It really is unbelievable. And insurance agencies, when you grow them the right way, they are there's organic growth that you capitalize on. It is like a tree. It grows, it bears more fruit.
Policies change, rates go up. People are always changing.
All the time.
If your rates have gone up, this is the guy that you want to talk to instead of just going to the same company who already raised the rates on you. You're the guy that they want to talk to, right? So
right.
You can be like, okay, do we want to change? Here's where we can get a better rate for
yeah, and all the years that I was a captive, you would try and talk about the things that you can do for clients, right? Mm-hmm. But rates are never really one of them because you're only selling one product.
Right.
So now that we're being the independent side, you can at least shop around, and if the rate that the company that they're with still has the best rate in this market right now, which is,
then you go stay.
You stay where you are, but at least we've done that due diligence and helped people and shopped. So,
which I think that it's like, how do you approach that? Because I think that that's a hard thing to do, is to tell somebody something, not what they want to hear,
right,
but what they need to hear. How have you approached that in your business?
Well, it's easy because I'm also a consumer. I have to buy insurance. I've got a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old on my policy.
Oh man,
And my daughter just walked out the door, but she's got 2 tickets in the last 3 years, so
ouch.
I'm getting crushed too. Which she's probably the best driver out of all of us.
You're paying for your own insurance.
Yeah. So you can relate to people, and again, it's you're just explaining kind of what's going on. You give somebody options, and be genuine and honest and as helpful as you can. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I think that you touched on something I think that's really struck a chord with me just kind of over the years, is that authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Finding ways with whatever it is that you're in relationships. I really enjoy sales and customer service just because I feel like that's, mm-hmm. I don't know, I'm a people person, so that's which is why you and we bonded real quick.
Right away.
I mean, we have that kind of the same type of personality, and where we're joking around and not taking ourselves too seriously, and that authenticity just kind of shines through. But I have noticed, as I've seen the greats, that where they're not just they make a lot of money, but like people actually truly respect them, and they make a lot of money,
mm-hmm.
so they're happy where they're at, not just like crying on a mound of gold. But they're authentic.
Yeah.
They're real with people. They are real people.
Well, you got to like what you do, right? With anything, if you got to like what you do, you got to believe in it. And I think you and I, there were similar in fact. You can remember things about people, right? Mm-hmm. So like a good salesperson doesn't have to be Glenn Ross, right? Like you see this watch,
Yeah.
But it's
a $40,000 watch.
Right. But if you can remember things of conversations about people, and that's probably the one thing that I think that's natural, and I never really, it's not a skill I've developed, but I can always remember something about something. So whenever somebody calls and they'll say, hey, I don't know if you remember me, and I'll go, yeah, like your daughter got married 2 years ago, or
and they're like,
you had a baby, and they like, really remember that? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, so certain things, I'm terrible with names. But
you'll pull random.
But that stuff, when somebody calls, I can remember their voice, and I can remember something about a conversation that we had. And when you have detailed conversations with people, right, about what they do, what they like, where they go, and you learn things from people. So here's that whole thing about like you talked about before of giving. Well, part of the giving is the receiving. So when people call and they're into things. This guy I was talking to this morning about Houston. He rides motorcycles, and he's got a police bike. And instead of just saying, okay, you have this Harley police bike, it's how did you get a Harley police bike? Like, how does that happen? And when he went through the story of the class that he went through and the mechanics of all that stuff, and I'll remember that. So, but those are the things that you learn from customers and people and clients and friends and family. Like when they tell you stories, I've always been able to remember them or the bits and pieces of it because it's interesting. And then when you have follow-up conversations with them, you know them, and it's real, right? Because it's a real thing.
And you both, I feel like you both walk away from that experience with something more, right? Mm-hmm. Not just an insurance policy, not just money, but like fulfillment is kind of a big thing for me. But it's one of the things I like to say is that when you are authentic, the people that you talk to, instead of feeling taken advantage of, they feel taken care of.
Yeah.
And so there's that bond that you normally wouldn't have, right?
I've had clients come in my office over the years, and they tell you everything, right? Details of stuff you don't want to hear. I've had clients hide out. I had this one guy. He would
from the mob.
Well, from his wife.
Same thing.
And he would come in my office. This older guy. He was a policeman in New York, and so we used to come and talk. And there were times his wife
could have been from the mob.
No, not him. He was a straight guy. But
okay.
But other people maybe. But those are different stories. But but his wife would call and she would call and say, "Is Richard there?" And I would say, "Yeah, he's sitting right across from me. Do you want to talk to him?" "No, just tell him to come home." And I'm like, "Okay." And poor Richard just shaking his head, and he'd be like, "All right, jig is up." I'm like, "Sorry, pal." Yeah. But those are the things that I love about what I do.
Yeah.
So if you don't like that, then this isn't.
That's not necessarily for you.
Mm-mm.
Now, excuse me. Stop motion talking about. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's. I think that's awesome. Honestly, I mean, hearing that does work. I think that a lot of people like you guys, let us know in the comments below if this is you, where I've just been kind of disappointed or disillusioned, if you will, by what I've seen. What I've been through, had bosses that don't treat their employees like where they put them in the best places that they can be, mm-hmm. or they don't operate that way. And so it's just like, wow, the corporate world is full of douchebags.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of them.
And there are, and it's hard because it's like those are the experiences that really like stick with you,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there are people out there such as yourself, and really 95% of people in BNI they operate the same way. Have that giver's gain mentality, the complete their bridge mentality. The Go Giver, if you've read that book,
mm-hmm.
Amazing book. That mentality. But again, it comes back to you,
right?
Because again, they're like, oh, well, this person isn't just saying whatever they need to like get what they want,
right?
They actually care. But that goes to relationships as well.
Yeah.
With if I'm talking to my wife knows when she's being sold a bag of crap.
Right.
Which I'm sure yours does too.
Yeah.
But you have to have that authenticity with all the relationships.
And that's what sales is relationship building, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so if you're going to be successful in anything that you're selling or anything you're doing, you've got to be able to build a relationship with people, and you got to believe in what you're selling, and then I think you just got to like what you do. And if you
100%.
If you do those three things, then you'll be successful for sure.
And I love that, and that's a big part of what we talk about with Bridging Divides. Is we talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different fields of the workplace, if you will, whether it's companies or nonprofits or whatever organizations. But that element, I think, it runs pretty much in every person that we've talked to,
mm-hmm.
is finding, if it's not like exactly what they love to do, there are aspects of it that they do love to do. So it's like you can have the crappiest job in the world, but if it checks the boxes for you, you're good to go, right? You had mentioned something before that I wanted to ask on, was you had talked about how you had at first you had this mentality of, I just need money, you know, and whatever I can say to get the yes, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Your motives were good, but it's like it was kind of upside down, where you're focusing on that money first to support your family. Was that hard to shift that, to go, okay, I'm gonna put that thought in the back of my mind that I need money, and just focus on doing it the right way, if you will?
Yeah.
Like, was that hard to? Because now, I mean, you support your family, you got a great company, you got, I mean, it's great, and that's how you operate.
Yeah.
But like, how did you make that shift? Because that can be scary for some people that have only known this way.
Yeah.
For so long.
Oh, the first 3 or 4 years, it was a nightmare of and for any small business, right? When you start your own business and you have to figure out how to make money and pay everything and do those things, and especially coming from like a corporate job where I had made my salary and then a bonus at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you pretty much knew what you were making. You knew what your potential was for a raise each year. And then when you work in a corporate environment, they have job, right? You're a supervisor, manager, president, vice president, president, and there's all these different levels that you try and climb. And anytime you sit down and you talk with your boss, you're like, I want to make more money. It means more responsibility, a higher level job, right? It's all of those things come on. So then you get into owning your own business, and all of that stuff is now changed. Mm-hmm. So then you have to figure out, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And I think along the way, I mentioned before about like mentors, like the things, the points of my career where I've had success, I've always had a mentor that I could go to and talk to about things. And then the points where I didn't have success, where I had huge failures, is where I generally didn't have somebody to go to.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, it's
like we succeed together.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And no matter who you are, what you do, you kind of need somebody, I think, that's going to tell you, no, don't do this, or this is bad. Yeah. Yeah. And somebody that you listen to, right, along the way. So, but I think really where I hit there's been like different stages, I think, of where maybe now, where your mentality is, I'm going to help everybody I can. And it's easy to say that, because when you get big, or you have a decent sized agency for what we do,
right?
It's now all of a sudden the monetary side of it is where there's some repetition or predictability, right? Mm-hmm. There's some forecasting you can do, and you can feel comfortable with what those things are going to be.
Because you got a lot of data to draw from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can see over the years.
Yeah, and there's tons of statistics and analytics you can run to see all that stuff that helps that. So that takes away a lot of the pressure or stress of things that make it a whole lot easier. So I think there's been like 3 phases of the last 20 years, where the first phase of it was trying to figure things out, right? Like making mistakes, doing things because you think it's the right thing to do or the thing you have to do, and those type of things. And my dad, the first 2 or 3 years that I was an agent, he retired early and came to work with me. And that was like one of the best things ever, because if I was stressed out, he'd come on, let's go to lunch, let's go get some wings. And he was also really funny, because I'd open up the file cabinet and I'd be like, Dad, look, like we got like 10 customers. And he'd be like, all right, like enough, like let's relax, you know? And then
bring it down a peg.
Yeah, and he'd bring it down a peg. So stuff like that was super helpful to have somebody around that jokingly, right, bring you down.
It's like they buoy you up and they keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Because I think that both are important.
It's easy to get over your skis in anything in life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So I think the first few years of me doing this, it was a matter of figuring out how to be a salesperson, how to run your own business, how to manage work-life balance, those type of things, right? All those things that everybody struggles with. And I don't know if there's any magic bullet to all of them, right? Mm-hmm. But I know, like, the one thing that I have tried to do, and then through all of that is something I learned at Chase, was the mantra is plan the work and work the plan. And that's something that I've always, whenever I get lost or sideways on something, it's like, okay, let's go back to this. Let's plan this thing out, and then let's go work the plan. right?
Awesome.
And then you put your blinders on and you're just kind of barrel through it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I did in the first phase where I was like, okay, we're growing, but we're not really growing enough. Like, we're having some success, but not enough success. What am I going to do? And then, planned it out. And then I bought 2 agencies.
Oh, wow.
And I went out and I took loans and I bought these 2 books, and then I had an office. So I went from my first year 1 to year 4. I had 2 offices, one in North Scottsdale and then one in Queen Creek.
Oh, wow.
And that was in
Jesus.
08. Things were great. We were rocking. I had 8 people working for me in both offices. I'd drive up to Scottsdale one day, and then the office in Queen Creek another. That was great. But then I went into this from 2008 to 2016, this mode of managing it. And then the 08 crash happens, and the market slides, and then all of a sudden you have this agency that's decreasing in revenue. You're losing staff, all of those things. So that was an interesting thing to where that happened, and then now with the independent side, the last 7 years have just been like everything's worked.
Wow.
Knock on wood.
Even through COVID?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We did.
COVID was nuts, man.
It was interesting.
Like, that was a crazy time. I mean, there's all the political stuff that everybody talks about, this and that and the other, but like, the fact of the matter, like, that was a crazy time that I never thought that I would see.
Yeah.
The world shuts down.
For us, and I think maybe the way, for our agency and the way that we've built it, COVID didn't really have a big effect because we didn't have the type of clients that we do. We do a lot of things with like group homes and security guard companies,
really?
Convenience stores and dispensers, like all these
things. You guys do home, auto, commercial, life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing something? Are those that's
everything but health insurance? Is what I was telling people.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of so maybe people didn't buy new cars, or they maybe got rid of a car right during COVID, or they didn't use their cars, but the insurance companies really didn't change much. It's not like that they.
No, they're not going to stop billing you for insurance.
No, no,
because of something like that.
So it's kind of like we were impervious to that. It wasn't a big deal. And from the business side, because we do a lot of commercial stuff as well. We have a really big commercial book. The businesses that we have, we're not restaurant heavy or some of those
other companies that just got hit so hard.
Yeah, that had to close their doors.
Yeah.
So it worked out. We're fortunate with that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it's like, you thank God for what you got. No, and I think that's awesome. And just kind of as we land the plane here, just kind of we're approaching the end of our time. One of my favorite segments, which I told you about, is the Positivity Prize Fighter segment, right?
Okay.
Life's gonna hit you. That's just what happens, and it's not about what does Rocky say? Something like, it's not about how hard it hits. It's whether or not you get back up.
Get up, yeah.
That's what positivity is in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a positivity prize fighter, it's you're gonna get back up as many times as you got knocked down because you know that you will get through it.
Right.
And that you will win eventually if you keep getting back up, right? It's like, what's a time in your life that you'd like to share with us that life has just knocked your teeth out and you're laying on the mat and you're there for a while, but you've got back up?
Probably 2017, I think. So I was in the midst of selling my agency because we had started Clear Choice years before that. So in 17, I was trying to sell my agency. It was where the book itself was the way that the dynamics of it worked with what I was making in the agency, what it was generating, what it took to operate it, and things like that. Like it came to one of those points where it was like, okay, we've got to do something about this, because it's not working. And the independent side was growing so fast that it was like, okay, we've got to make this switch. So I was trying to do that. I had opened up an indoor batting cage in Chandler.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
And that was something I thought was going to work. I was so happy about it. My son plays baseball, so I had this close to 9,000 square foot facility with 9 batting cages in it. And I had teams in there and instructors. The baseball world is all around it. It was something that I was in love with, right?
Yeah.
Like this is going to be the greatest thing ever. My daughter would come and help me. We did a lot of the painting and a lot of the stuff. Like one night we had to take down a wall, so her and I went up there with the sledgehammer. We still have video from it of like throwing a sledgehammer through the wall and knocking it down.
And your son's pretty great at baseball, from what I understand.
Yeah,
right?
he's playing JUCO ball now, community college ball for Gateway Community. So their
awesome.
Season's about to kick off. So yeah, he's a good player. He had a great high school career. He was at Desert Ridge and. He was an all-state player, and yeah, he was really good.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, and he
throws
pretty hard.
It was like that was the world.
It was the perfect thing. It was something that I could do with my daughter. It's something I could do with my son, and people I knew. Like I thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever, and it failed miserably. It lasted a year and a half, and so I'm trying.
What happened? Why?
So I think I didn't really understand the way that business works. I just thought that if I build it, people will come, like feel the dreams. Yeah, the cars would be coming, the lights are on, like everybody's coming, like no big deal. Yeah. So and my thought was it would be like a restaurant where you have tables, right? And the cages are like tables, and you want to fill those tables, you want to fill the cages, and so I did all this capacity studies and all these different things to try and anticipate and project and forecast what we were going to make and revenue.
Which is great. So, I mean, you did homework. It's not like you just like went off half-cocked and, were like, I'm going to open a batting cage,
right.
Which is how I do like everything. But like you had planned this out.
Mm-hmm. I was wrong. 100% wrong. That's all I can tell you is
sometimes it happens.
It
right?
does, yes.
Like,
and I think the big part of it was the hours that I was going to try and fill, I couldn't fill. So to use the restaurant analogy, is if you have 10 tables, during between 11:30 and 2:30, all 10 of those tables, right? Between 6 and 8, all those tables. But it's all the time before and in the middle and after that you're trying to stack, and I couldn't get those time slots filled with profitable business. The weekends, those type of things.
Wasn't sustainable.
It wasn't sustainable, and so that came to a halt, and that really was a bummer, right? Then we were selling our house and moving from Chandler to Queen Creek, so that deal fell through because the buyer, and we had the house that we were buying. Right, it was contingent.
Yeah.
So then that whole thing fell through. So there was a 3-month window, a 4-month window, and then then there was some medical stuff going on with my son. So then.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like it was everything that didn't involve work. Right, writing insurance was an obstacle, a struggle, a hurdle to get through.
How was that? If you don't mind me asking, like how was your relationship with your wife through that? So I've got 6 kids, and it's like when all of that goes on, it's like you love each other and you're there for each other, but man, it's hard.
It's a strain, but like anything, I think at the time, you kind of divide and conquer. So like I would take Matthew to the doctor and physical therapy. Pick up. You divide and conquer, right? I mean, that's I think what.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's like even though it's stressful, it doesn't need to be destructive.
And it can be, like it totally can be.
Yeah.
So.
What did you? How did you get through that? Like how? Like you'd mentioned divide and conquer and
plan the work the plan.
Plan the work the plan. You had people to help. I mean, you and your wife. I mean, you were together and kind of doing what you could to do that. But
every day you just got to keep fighting. I think there's no magic bullet or answer to it. I think is that every day you wake up, you're going to be positive, and you're going to just tackle those things that are in front of you, and just battle, right? I mean, that's like sports analogies, life, coaches, don't give up, right? Whatever the thing is. So I think and eventually what happened is then something would work out, and all of a sudden then the house, there was a new buyer for the house, so that was great, and then went back to the seller that we were originally working with, and they hadn't sold the house yet, so then we got the house after all. So like all of a sudden, I think those things started to work and play, and I remember like I've told the story before, but when I was in 1999, I'd gotten this promotion. I'd worked for Chase here in Arizona. I got this job in New York, this big promotion. I was going back. And I was flying out on Sunday, and Saturday night I went out with my brother and some of my friends, right? We went out and had a nice time. And that morning, my parents come over, and I'm sick in the shower. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to go today. I'll fly out tomorrow. I need to sleep the rest of the day. And my dad's like, you're getting on that plane. and I was like, no, I'm not. And he goes, yeah, you are. And I'm thinking, I'm 25. I was 24. I'm 24.
Tell me what to do, Dad.
Yeah, I'm 24 years old. Like, I'm going to be a manager,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this. I don't have to.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you're going to get on a plane. You're going to go. And begrudgingly, I'm packing my bag and, right? And I get on the plane and I go. And the next day I go to work. And like that was something that I think even like when you're a parent today and your kids, there are certain times where you're like, all right, it's okay. But then there are times like, no, you're gonna get on the bus, or you're gonna go do this, or I don't care what, like I'm taking you and I'm dropping you off and you're gonna go make this happen.
Put on your big kid pants.
Yeah. And it's kind of an old school type of thing, but I think if not giving up and continuing to fight every single battle you can, that eventually you win.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about life, right? Is that the reason why sports are so influential and formative is because of the parallels that they have to life, right? And
the positives outweigh the negatives with all that stuff.
Yeah, right. And so, but I think that one thing about life, right, is that's different, I think, than sports, is that the only way that you lose is by not trying again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you will eventually win if you just keep going. Weather the storm.
Right.
Until the storm passes.
Yeah.
And you'll get through it. But if you jump ship while you're in the middle of the storm,
right,
then of course you're going to drown.
We get more clients today than ever when they say things like, I call my agent or I can never get a hold of them, or they moved, or they don't have their office anymore, and we're here. You come in, there's 3 of us in the office. Now my daughter works here, so awesome. There's 4 of us here, and we're available. Like, we get busy too, just like everybody else.
Sure.
So there are times where, we have to get back to people, and it takes us time to do things, but we're accessible, and I think accessibility is something that is also people don't have.
I love that, dude. Consistency,
mm-hmm.
being authentic, being present. Man, we talked about a lot of great stuff today. No, Chris, thank you so much for being on. I just love talking to you. Love getting to know you over the years, and just it's a lot of fun to be able to give you crap and know that when you give me crap, we just pass it around and it's fun.
We haven't done enough of it right here. I think the people need to see.
Yeah. No, but I just really appreciate everything that you've done for me, and I can see how you operate in your business. If you need insurance, yeah, he's from New York, but he'll take care of it. No, it just absolutely awesome. Let us know in the comments if you've had some crazy insurance stories. We'd love to hear them. Thank you guys again for joining us. And remember that authenticity is the way that you're going to feel the most fulfilled, and that you're going to be able to really show people who you are. So whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's at work or in sales or whatever it is, that's how you're going to succeed. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.